Today's video is going to focus on cell differentiation and stem cells. So life likely began as small unicellular organisms. However, over time, these unicellular organisms began to work together, and as a result, they evolved into simple multicellular organisms. Three things occurred following this. So firstly, organisms were able to grow larger as they were not limited by the size of one cell. Number two is cells were able to specialize through cellular differentiation into various different kinds of cells. As a result of this, multicellular organisms displayed emergent properties. That is, that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and we will explore these ideas of cellular differentiation and emergent properties later on in this video. Okay, so now looking at cellular differentiation. So in multicellular organisms, different cell types can perform different functions, and this occurs as a result of cells differentiating into various different types of cells. So when an unspecialized stem cell, which we'll explore what stem cells are later on in this video, changes and carries out a specific function of the body, this is known as cellular differentiation. So the first thing that occurs in cellular differentiation is when fertilization occurs, the cells that form the embryo are known as pluripotent embryonic stem cells. This type of stem cell is able to develop into any type of cell. So the second point is that all cells have the same genome. That is, they have the same complete set of genes and genetic material. However, different cells switch on and off different genes, and as a result of this, that gives rise to the synthesis of different proteins, which triggers the specialized development of that specific cell and its descendants as well. This causes groups of cells to differentiate along different pathways and perform different functions. However, notably, this process cannot be reversed. So here we have an example of cellular differentiation. So the single cell splits via mitosis and forms two identical daughter cells. However, the daughter cell on the top expresses the neuron-specific gene, and so therefore differentiates into a neuron, whereas the bottom daughter cell expresses the epithelial-specific gene and therefore differentiates into an epithelial cell. So cellular differentiation results in emergent properties. So emergent properties arise when the interaction of individual components produces new functions. So that is, the individual cells which perform their specific function work together to produce overall functions, and this is summed up by the quote, "The whole is greater than the sum of its parts." So this can be seen here, where we have the cells form the tissue, which then goes to form the organ, then goes to form the organ system, and then the organism. So at the cellular level, the cell only performs a specific function, but all those cells working together within the organ and organ system produces a great effect. So, as mentioned earlier, stem cells are the type of cell that differentiates into the different cells and causes the emergent properties. So stem cells are an undifferentiated or unspecialized cell of a multicellular organism that can form more cells of the same type indefinitely, and from which certain other kinds of cells arise by differentiation. So the two main principles of stem cells, the first is that they can continuously divide and replicate, and the second is that they have the capacity to differentiate into specialized cell types. So there are actually various different types of stem cells, which we'll explore now. So as seen in this table, the first type of stem cell is the totipotent stem cells. So this refers to the 8 cells of the morula. And so these cells can differentiate into any type of cell, including placental cells, and each of these individual 8 cells can give rise to a complete organism by themselves. The second type of stem cells is pluripotent stem cells. So these are, for instance, the embryonic stem cells of the blastocyst, and they can differentiate into all body cells but unlike the totipotent stem cells, cannot give rise to an entire new organism. Multipotent stem cells, for instance the umbilical cord stem cells, can differentiate into a few closely related types of body cell. And the unipotent stem cells can differentiate into their associated cell type. For instance, liver stem cells can only make liver cells. So embryos are an important source of stem cells. Once an embryo has been fertilized, it starts to divide and forms totipotent stem cells during the early stages up until the 8-cell stage of the morula. So as we can see in the diagram, the totipotent stem cells form that 8-cell morula. And theoretically, each cell at this stage can develop into its own full and normal organism. So after this stage, these cells continue to divide and develop to form the pluripotent cells of the blastocyst, which go on to form all the specialized tissues of the developing embryo. So stem cells can be used to treat diseases, and the first disease that we'll look at is Stargardt's disease. So this is a disease of the eye, and it is an inherited form of juvenile macular degeneration, which causes progressive loss of central vision. It's caused by a recessive genetic mutation, which causes an active transport protein on the photoreceptor cells to malfunction, causing them to degenerate. And it looks something like this in this photo. So there'll be a spot in the middle of the eye that completely loses vision. And so patients are given retinal stem cells derived from human embryonic stem cells, which are injected into the retina, and they have been shown to give back this vision. The other use of stem cells to treat diseases is in the instance of leukemia. So leukemia is a blood or bone marrow cancer, which is caused by high levels of abnormal white blood cells, and this results in individuals having a higher risk of infections, anemia, and bleeding. So treatment involves hematopoietic stem cells, which are multipotent stem cells, and these are known as HSCs. So these HSCs can be taken from the bone marrow, peripheral blood, or umbilical cord blood, and can come from the patient or a suitable donor. The patient then undergoes chemotherapy and radiotherapy to completely wipe out the diseased white blood cells. And following this, the HSCs are transplanted into the bone marrow, where they differentiate to form new healthy white blood cells. So as a result of stem cells coming from embryos and potentially developing organisms, there are a lot of ethical considerations when the use of stem cells. However, some arguments supporting stem cells can be the following. So firstly, cells may be used in cell therapy, which replaces bad cells with good ones, and eliminating serious diseases or disabilities in the human population. Secondly, transplants can be easily obtained without requiring the death of another human or inflicting any kind of pressure on normal body functioning, which happens when someone donates an organ. And thirdly, the stem cells are harvested from the embryo at an early stage when the embryo has not yet developed a nervous system, and thus taking these stem cells from the embryo is not likely to feel any pain. So that is all for this video. Thank you for watching, and subscribe for more.